Ladies, what are some things that can make it aesthetically pleasing? Make sure it's clean, really clean. If I'm gonna be having and receiving oral, I shower right before going to their house or to meet them, and I wash my and balls the most thoroughly. Like if someone gonna make sure it's squeaky clean. I would hate to have a girl go down on me and get a bad taste. Like I will not let a girl give me a BJ unless I just showered recently, like past to -4 hers and not sweaty or smelly at all. Y'all, 2 -4 hours is a bit of an exaggeration, I suppose. Just ideally should be showered within the past 6 hours, like 12 -20 for max. I've eaten my ex out after she showered in the morning, went to work, and it was later than night, so about 8 -12 hours since she had showered, and it tasted fine. And she has gone down on me the morning after we spent the night together, and it would be fine. You just want to make sure it smells okay, lol. Nobody wants a very sweaty, smelly meat stick in their mouths. I don't mind pubic hair, but I prefer it not to be on the shaft if possible. Not a deal breaker by any means though. What matters the most is cleanliness. I clean and trim, obviously, but my God, I'll never forget the first time I shaved with a tie razor and sliced my shaft. Here is a lot of blood flowing through that pipe. Thought it would never end. Show me a man who doesn't get a little on edge when taking any cutting device to there, and I'll show you a liar. My ex had one of the most aesthetically pleasing ass I have seen. He was average size, but it was so perfectly proportioned and symmetrical looking all over that I found it rather stunning. He was embarrassed as hell the first little while when I was admiring it. He said he'd never had pay such close attention to his before, Yule or otherwise. I remember taking a catheter out of a patient who had the most beautiful I had ever seen. It was the perfect size and dimensions. The skin was buttery smooth, had very few wrinkles, and the color was even and perfect. I was not thinking anything Yule at all. I was thinking, wow, this is like the version of the hand model. My coworkers and I were no prudes. Talk was not off limits. So I was surprised when I got funny looks because I said, wow, Mr. Johnson has the most beautiful I have ever seen. My coworkers were like, really, Biscuit? Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that, and we're laughing like I broke a rule. I mean, it's not like they were horrified, but just a funny oh my God moment. I tried to explain that I was looking at it like a piece of art, like the statue of David, but they just saw it like I was a little pervert that day. Googly eyes, it really takes the edge off those random pics. So little off topic, but when I was younger, I fancied myself the creative type, and after a talk with some friends and some heavy drinking, I was like, I'm going to reinvent the pic using filters and lighting techniques, etc., etc. I'm going to make it more than just a pic. It will be an experience. I kept saying that, an experience. So anyway, first one I try, I inverted the light source, so instead of light from above, that is from the ceiling, I did light from below going upward. Anyway, end result was my looked like it was sat around a campfire telling horror stories. I scraped the whole idea instantly. What I'm saying here is, should have gone with googly eyes. Just wash it. Hopelessly early, the amount of men who don't know how to clean their ass properly is concerning. Like I can tell if you're dirty, has used a sensitive skin moisture soap or nah. I didn't mean like soap for aesthetics, like genuinely the difference visually between and good clean and a dirty one is noticeable. Dude, for real. People need to teach their kids this from an early age, and not just for aesthetic reasons. My friend's kid recently got circumcised because the poor little dude had been living with his grandparents for a few years. Long story, messy divorce. Mom was a disaster, dad was working his off to get custody and a big enough home to take the kid. So the grandparents didn't teach him proper hygiene during that time, leading to several issues, which apparently could only be solved by surgery. The dad was pretty against the snip when the kid was born because of his own trauma and damage from getting snipped as a baby, and all the obvious reasons it's a bad idea. Now, thanks to his garbage in-laws, the poor kid not only has it, but at an age where he's going to remember it forever. There is a massive amount of irony in your comment, saying people don't know how to wash their ass properly, then telling them to use soap. Do not use soap on your, at least not on the glands and area under your foreskin. This is very bad for those tissues. It can cause them to dry out, get abraded, crack, let infections in, etc. It can be very harmful. Hot water is all you need for that area. The rest of the shaft and balls, by all means, use soap. Soap the hell out of them. just not the sensitive membranes around the glands. Seeing a lot of joke answers, and I consider myself somewhat of a connoisseur of pics. I like to receive them and regularly post that I like to receive them. So I'll leave a serious comment. If we're talking in person, that's completely up to the viewer's preference. But almost everybody prefers a clean doodle. Also wash your balls and gooch. Nothing turns me off more than going down on a guy and being able to smell him before I even get down there. You don't have to shave if you don't want to, but maybe trim a bit so it's not looking like the Amazon. Outside of that, there isn't much that can be done as far as looks. Pics are a whole nother world. If you're gonna take a pic, you need to go all out for it. She's gonna see you're hiding it under the covers, and using the flash isn't going to hide it any more than shining a spotlight on it is. Surprisingly, cleanliness still matters here. Not always, but there have been times where I can tell it is dirty just from the pic. The pubic hair looks greasy. There might be a small piece of debris that the owner missed. Also, when you're clean, you're confident, and that can show through in an image. After cleanliness, I think lighting is most important. The difference between poor lighting plus camera flash and just natural lighting can be so vast it might look like different doodles. If you're making pics a thing, it's well worth it to invest in a tripod with a lighting setup. They're pretty cheap on Amazon, and they usually come with a natural light setting. Once you've got your natural light, I recommend watching some to get nice and hard. You can edge to get some pre-cum going if you want. Some people really like that. I'm personally a fan of a ton of lube or oil. I like a nice sheen. Third most important is the angle. I know you might be self-conscious of your balls, or maybe you think it's a pic. Why would I include the balls? But S can look kind of lonely when they're by themselves. And showing off the balls also shows a little more confidence. Like you're proud of your body and want to show it off. You can adjust your room's temperature so it's slightly warmer so the balls loosen up a bit. One of my favorite angles is in natural lighting facing the light source at a slight angle to the camera, a few feet back, so you can at least see from slightly below the nipples to the mid-thigh, hard, with the balls there. It's very tasteful. Anyways, don't send the pic unless they ask for it. No matter how good it is, almost no one wants it if it wasn't requested. Don't be that guy. Trim, shave, or wax the ball hair and clean up your pubic mound. But the real trick: clean fingernails. Holding a clean cock with nasty hands. Barf, waxing is unnecessary and extreme. You can get just as smooth with hair removal cream with none of the pain and suffering or healing time. Just use sensitive skin formula and follow the instructions carefully. I've been doing it for years. Gets the Who package from shaft to crack smooth as an egg in like 10 minutes flat with no pain, no ingrown hairs, no stubble, nada. Cut or not doesn't matter. I think both look good. I prefer hair just 'cause stubble looks funny and clean looks weird. Make sure it's clean though, trimmed and shaped. Clean the shaft if you're sending photos. I don't know, a wet looks weird, but if you want to show the cum dripping out, that's fine. But if the whole thing's wet, some people may not like it. Hand in photo for reference, and cause it's sitting there by itself looks awkward. Selfie or regular camera looks good as long as you got a good angle. Good advice. Also, clean up the area behind the main object of the photo. So many people are in nasty bathrooms with clothes all over the floor or an unkempt bed. Clean up the background too. Ladies will notice and judge. Of things you can change: get rid of hair growing up the shaft, keep the rest trimmed to 8 mm or less. Give the pubic hair defined edges if you can too. Hell, if you're feeling adventurous, do a landing strip design. It's not just for women. And of course, keep the whole thing clean, but that ought to be a given. My personal preference is uncircumcised, but that varies between people and not really something you can change. It is also my opinion that circumcision constitutes genital mutilation and ought to be abolished. There has been some debate over circumcision in the replies, so I'd like to link this recent video biologist Dr. Lindsay Doe reading a chapter of a book on the history of circumcision. The modern history begins at about 707, explaining why so many non-Jewish Americans are circumcised. I do not think the evidence that circumcision meaningfully improves health outcomes in the developing world is compelling, and regardless, the core issue here is consent. As far as I'm concerned, anyone should be free to get a circumcision as an adult if they so choose. But since the evidence suggests it is not at all, medically necessary, and the modern American practice is based almost entirely in trying to stop people from masturbating and not any actual health reason. I do not think it is at all appropriate or acceptable to circumcise infants. Is it as bad as female genital mutilation? No, but I'm not of the mind that one is fine just because the other is worse. Besides, FGM is not a cultural institution in the West. Opposing circumcision in the West is not misplacing one's priorities, because the worse of the two isn't a thing here. Surprised no one has mentioned using a Snapchat filter on it. Or if we're taking in general, do what I did with my last girlfriend. Get googly eyes and place them on the tip, draw stick arms and fingers on, then draw a derpy tooth and mouth. Think Patrick from SpongeBob when he says, "Who you callin' pinhead?" Now you have yourself a face. And if that doesn't work, take the same googly eyes and pull open the pee hole a little bit continuously and go blub 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 while pretending it's a fish. Also, don't forget to pull it open wider randomly to make it look like it's going so she laughs. No, this is not made up. I actually did all this and was thoroughly satisfied during my laughter. Honestly, it just being cleaned. Cut or not cut doesn't matter. Trimmed, shaved or natural doesn't matter. Just a good clean. It's a genital and it isn't supposed to be beautiful. The same applies to vaginas. Just scrub that along with your balls, gooch and butthole, and you have an aesthetically pleasing nether region. If anyone tells you differently, they're entitled to their preference. If anyone bullies you for it or shames you, they're immature AF and a waste of time. Move on. Circumcised people always insist that women prefer their ass over uncircumcised ones. But in reality, most women don't give two s. All s look weird to them. The only thing that matters to any civilized woman is that it's clean, which is easy if you have any common sense and manners. As a German, the whole uncircumcised versus circumcised thing is wild to me because it just isn't a thing here, or anywhere outside the US for that matter. Like, I know one circumcised person, and he had it for medical reasons. Generally, circumcision is only done for medical or religious. Also rather rare, given that only Jews do that here and there kinda aren't a lot of them here anymore, reasons, so hearing Americans go, but it's cleaner. But women prefer it, or whatever is just weird. Paint it, add glitter, put a bow on it, bedazzled it, there are rhinestone stickers. Maybe add a shibari tie with colorful rope. Wear a kawaii cock ring, or put it in a pastel cage. Maybe draw on it with henna or washable markers. Put stickers on it, or temporary tattoos. Dye your pubes. Shave them into some kind of design like a heart or stars. Ooh, take surgical glue and glue things like lace or flowers or cabochons to it. Put whipped cream, sprinkles, candy toppings, and a cherry on top. Kawaii aesthetic. I'd show you mine, but I'd rather not. You'd go blind. When you have a perfect, it emits a light, not a glow. Some have said it was like looking into the eyes of Jesus, while some brown girls say Ali even had yellow girls reference. Buddy, when your did is perfect, it's best not to let them look at it directly, as they will undoubtedly have a decrease in optical functionality. You're not supposed to look directly at the sun, right? So I had a girl put on some welding glasses to be able to describe why my is so perfect. We're the sounds she made because it was so perfect no word in any language could really convey this miracle of nature. Then I woke up and changed my sheets. A handful of people are saying symmetrical S are the most aesthetic. Kinda agree that it's more based on who it's attached to. If we just talking about lining up some pics and picking one, then I'd probably pick the one that looks most like my BF's. If you don't have a man, you probably have less of a preference, but most people are extremely attracted to the guy they like, are dating. It doesn't even have to be perfect, because even with flaws, that still makes it look perfect in the right admirer's eyes. What I really like about my BFs is the curvature and the shape of the head. It's hard to explain, but for guys who are insecure about their size, don't be. It'll be the perfect for her if you're confident about it, and if the girl you're dating notices this, then it makes it so much more attractive to her. I don't know how to say it, but my husband has a really pretty peen. It's not bright red, it's not shiny, his balls don't look dusty, no gonzo's nose shape, which can be hard to handle. He keeps everything very well trimmed, so everything is a clear view and nothing gets lost in a hairy jungle. It also smells completely neutral down in the sandlot because we have a bidet and he's not afraid to use it, and the commitment to keeping it all trimmed short means he doesn't get that moldy damp towel down comforter smell to his balls and taint. Not a woman, but just a heads up for all the ladies umming foreskin is unclean. That notion is total nonsense, and if your man has cleanliness issues down there, it's probably because he's a degenerate cave goblin that doesn't spend any minimal time cleaning their Johnson in the shower. The only meaningerfiendal difference that circumcision will have on it is that it's more aesthetically pleasing, but that comes at the cost of losing some sensitivity on the head of the which to me is just not worth it. Trim the hair a bit and wash well, and you're already ahead of the curve. As far as pics go, I think everyone is tired of seeing a close-up of you with the flash on. Like no one actually wanted that in the first place, yet somehow it's all we ever got. If you look at women's nudes, they are so artistic and you can see way more of our bodies. Give us some of that. Give us a slightly upward angle that gets your face in there. Sit on the couch and have a little tripod set up facing you so we can see your whole body. Maybe you just give us a little midsection to top of thighs action. Just put the tiniest amount of thought into it. What are you doing with your hands? How is your face looking? Which of my body parts can I also include to make this a really wide pick? Nothing. They're not hot. They're not pretty to look at. Women are complex creatures. We find things attractive if other factors are attractive. Your ween is not inherently attractive on its own, but if you're meeting our needs emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, your ween will be more attractive because we will find you as a person more attractive. So, focus more on the other things. Have great hygiene, of course. We love a man with a good hygiene routine, but also make sure you're functioning in the role she needs you to function in for her. Do the house work without being asked. Pick up flowers on your way home, and when they die, replace them. Give her non-usual physical affection. Physical touch should never been an exchange expecting usual favors. Love her in her love languages. Have genuine conversations. Show interest in her interests. Plan things for her. Be a leader. The attraction will follow suit. Aside from good hygiene, which shouldn't have to be said, the aesthetic is what's attached to the what are you like. Are you a good listener? Are you thoughtful and caring? Do you care for yourself? Are you working on anything? Hobbies? Interests? Have you been to therapy? Do you have style or taste? You don't have to be perfect. Anyone with any can be attractive. And with that being said, a perfectly aesthetically pleasing isn't worth if it's attached to a self-centered man-child. I realized that ladies really like my after my first marriage. I was messing around with a woman that just happened to, apparently, explain in detail to a mutual woman friend what was like with me. The next time I saw them, the mutual friend and her tried to get me to go back to their tent with them. The mutual friend asks, and I quote, "When are we going to get some of that Loki?" Mind you, I hadn't fooled around with the girl since I told her I was no longer interested because I had found someone else. She was a great partner, but a terrible partner in every other way. I was remarried and raising my kids at this point. My wife and kids were at the event with me. I gave them a definite no, though at that moment it dawned on me that maybe all the women that had complimented me cock weren't just trying to boost my ego. As a guy, I never understood why some guys don't know how to properly clean themselves. It really is not difficult at all. The dirty guys are probably the same guys I see in the bathroom all the time at work that literally never wash their hands and smell like they only shower once every 2 weeks. One of my coworkers came up to me one day and she said she was so glad I have good hygiene and smell good because some of the other coworkers we have to work closely with smelled so bad and didn't seem to care they smelled bad. Management never said anything to them because they don't have to work near them and deal with it like we do. I don't understand it because if I was a manager, I would talk to them privately and try to help them figure out ways to work on their hygiene because other people don't deserve to have to work around that. I would give 3 verbal warnings nicely and try to help them, but if it continued, I would let them go as a manager. I know some of y'all gonna be haters, but get a circumcision. Damn, I hate uncircumcised ass. Gross. It's not really a choice that most guys have as it is done to babies. It's also like a dude saying he only likes circumcised women. Dudes with circumcised s usually have less nerves meaning less feeling on there possibly meaning less engaging. I can understand that media can manipulate your viewpoint on what is a handsome though. To be fair, most genitals look like deep-sea non-vertebrates, so of course your opinion is valid. I'm not a lady, but I know some fashion tips from the double entendre house of couture. Hygiene and attitude are vital. You can pull off any look if you're clean and positive, like clothes, dress to accentuate the good and minimize the bad. You shouldn't wear horizontal stripes if you're short and fat, for example. Some people like a curvy figure, and some like thin and lanky. Embrace your unique figure and be confident. It's okay to be bald. Some people look really good bald if they have the right shaped head. If you're not bald, you still probably look better with at least a little bit of a haircut to even things out. I am definitely not a lady, but I have always been concerned about my size in general. However, I've been told multiple times that Winona Ryder's quote from the movie Destination Wedding is the most accurate quote about it that has come up in popular culture in the past 30 years. Lindsay, while evaluating Frank's attractiveness, you have a beautiful Frank. I do. Lindsay, oh, come on, Frank. Surely people have told you that your entire life. Frank, no. Lindsay, well, it's very nice. It's straight, and you would not believe how epidemic a problem that is. Also, it's balletically formed. It's not so big as to ever be cause for concern, but it's big enough never to be the object of ridicule or scorn. You're in a very sweet spot there, so maybe they're just blowing smoke up my butt. I've also been told that it is a shame that I have waited my entire adult life to hear these things. So, ladies, what do you think? So I normally think that ES are ugly, to be honest. However, my man has the most amazing looking I have ever seen. He is a little above average size and he is completely proportional. Like head to shaft ratio is on point. Plus he is the perfect girth, and he has this vein that swells the more turned on he gets. That just adds to the whole appeal. I find myself admiring him all the time. I'll just lay down there and look at him watching him grow. Oh, he is legit perfect. For me, it literally needs to be ever so slightly under the shaft size and not these big deep corona of glands between head and shaft, making it look like it's already been halfway chopped off. Otherwise, all I think is mushroom. Like a big juicy head, deep head to shaft bump transition is not appealing to me whatsoever. Ooh, I love me some what I call rods, actually the corpus sponginosum, that big muscle on the underside of the, when that pops out and is super defined. The male genitals are for function more than visual appeal. As long as the man is clean and free of STD, that's all we need. If a man can please me during foreplay, that'll start an engine where I'll orally please the heck out of him. One of the reasons I fell for my husband. Initial attraction opens the door, but when there is emotional attraction, a man will become the hottest thing she knows. That's the key, not a visually appealing pecker. The first time I ever saw was my ex who wanted a hand job. I gave him one, but because it wasn't washed or never washed, the smell built more and more until I had to leave. The smell stunk out the room and lingered on my hand even after soap and hand cream. After him, I was afraid to see another again. I was scared of being with a guy for a few years. Moral of the story, just keep it clean. To be honest, I just like S and the way they look, so I'm probably not the person to be answering. Realistically, if he is relatively clean and has no obvious signs of infection, STI, or otherwise, most S are fine. For the love of all that is good in this world, if you know there's a high possibility of you getting head and you want to clean up your beforehand, wash all the soap off. I would genuinely prefer that sorta tastes like sweat over feeling like I'm getting my mouth washed out for saying a naughty word. I do think it's all based on the individual, though.